Hi there, and welcome. My name is Paula, and I am one of the paranormal investigators. Um, Today's video um, is going to be one that is the first in a series that I'm going to call So You Want to Be a Ghost Hunter, Psychic, Medium, etc. The reason that I want to do this is that there is a very, very disturbing or concerning trend that I am seeing as a paranormal investigator. And a lot of folks are just diving in, um, you know, head first into things involving spirit and paranormal investigations. I'm going to relate this series through some of my own personal experiences as a paranormal investigator. I'm also going to refer you to some texts and books in another series. And then, we'll get into some equipment, best practices, everything like that in another video. So today, one of the most important things that you have to do if you want to get into anything dealing with the paranormal, communicating with spirit, practicing magic, everything like that. You have heard me refer to, malignant magic. You have heard me refer to instances where someone trying to communicate with spirit through the use of divination tools like Ouija and spirit talking boards, psychic circle, et cetera, et cetera. And also, you have heard me talk about paranormal investigators and people who attend these like tour groups, and they get attachments. So, the number one thing that I started off learning when I was going through my training to be a witch. And let me tell you, my training as a witch took years, years, not a day, not by reading one book, not by, watching a television show like Charmed. It came through having a mentor, in other words, a real person, having access to peers who were like me. One of my personal travel into becoming a pretty daggone good paranormal investigator and becoming a very powerful witch and embracing my spirit guides and developing as a medium, as a clairvoyant, as a psychic, as a healer. It took time. And I did a lot of steps before I stuck my toe into becoming a ghost hunter or a paranormal investigator, whatever you want to call it. If you want something more PC than ghost hunter, paranormal investigator, which is the term I prefer. But I didn't dive into this head first. I started my journey as through my training to become a witch. And one of the absolute most important things that you need to develop as a ghost hunter, paranormal investigator, a psychic, a medium, a clairvoyant, an empath, whatever, and have a mentor. I had an absolutely wonderful, wonderful head high priestess in tradition of the Witches Circle out of Occoquan, Virginia. I had a tremendous head high priest who also, taught me tarot and astrology and things like that. And that was so important. And I also had peers who were going through the journey with me. We had classes. And although we could, access class, like if we couldn't travel there for whatever reason, we could, bring it up on the internet in like a chat environment, in a video chat environment. And we were able to attend classes that way. But the best way to attend a class like that is to have a person in person that you can go to. Now, I'm not saying that online classes are bad. It just helps if you have a community behind you and personal relationships that you develop, whether online or in person, that you can reach out to if you have concerns or questions, etc. Okay? Now, my journey as a witch took years, and it's still going on. I learned something new every single day of my life, either through experience, through, reading, through people that I've met, relationships that I've developed over the years, whether they be, online or in person. My journey as a witch involved 5 levels, and in the 5th level, there were actually 3 separate components to that, and it took years. One of the very first thing that we learned how to do and how to develop was grounding and centering. You need to be able to control your environment, control yourself, control your, psyche, control your ego, put your ego in check, and go at this like a baby. You don't need to hit the ground running. I didn't. And it's pretty presumptuous for folks to think that they can pick up a Ouija board, that they can pick up a deck of tarot cards, that they can pick up a book, watch a TV show, and then be able to be an effective ghost hunter, medium, psychic, or, magical practitioner. The most important thing I ever learned was, number 1, ground and center. And that takes time. It takes time to be able to put yourself in that headspace, to keep yourself connected so that you can learn how to protect yourself. Every class that I took with my head high priestess and my high priest involved the very first thing that we sat down and did as a class, as a group, whether you were online or you were in person, was a meditation that ranged anywhere from 3 minutes to 12 minutes to teach you and get you in the habit of grounding and centering before you do one daggone thing. This is not always able to be done in one session. You can't just read a book or watch, a video and boom, be able to do it right off the bat. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes development. The second thing that you learn, in addition to, the basis and expanding your knowledge of whatever the subject area is learning how to protect yourself. Now, there are multiple ways that you can protect yourself. And I kind of liken this, and some of you may get a little bit offended by this reference, but I kind of liken this to take it like a new relationship, okay? You want to take it slow. You want to get to know the other person involved. You want to know a little bit about them before you go and you jump in the sack with somebody, okay? You have a personal responsibility to learn how to protect yourself, just as you would in a new relationship that you want to take to the next level, because you do not know enough at this point about yourself, your abilities, or anything else to be able to jump in with both feet. It's very dangerous, and you need to be protected. Just like in a new relationship, you need to take personal responsibility for protecting yourself. You can, surround yourself with divine white light from whatever religion that you are. And then, you also double down with how many videos have I done that have given protective stones, talked about protective metals, getting things consecrated, learning how to use your tools properly. And I'm not just talking magical tools. I'm talking any means of divination that you do, whether it's scrying, it's runes, it's tarot, it's Ouija boards, it's entering, into a deep trance to try and connect with spirit. You have a personal responsibility to learn how to shield and protect yourself before you do one daggone thing to become a ghost hunter or to start dabbling in communicating with spirit, okay? Or making a more concerted effort to communicate with spirit. Now, the importance of this is, and I'm going to relay this, is that when I was going through my advanced stages of training as a witch, we had a very large midsummer ritual where probably, I think it was upwards of 70 people attended, okay? And they were from all varying experiences, as magical practitioners, whether they were, Druid, Wiccan, whether they, practiced a, Southern conjure, whatever, or a complete and utter novice with absolutely no experience whatsoever, coming in to see if studying this witchcraft, Wicca, was part of their personal journey in craft, okay, and their spiritual journey. One person who was in a level kind of behind me as part of the rituals in my tradition, you can call in a patron god or goddess. You can call in your ancestors. And you can call in your spirit guides. You can call in a totem. Wherever your magical practice centers you. Okay? And it's very, very common for people to call in gods or goddesses that they work with routinely and they have a relationship with. Now, with this being an open ritual, in other words, it wasn't just people from my tradition or my coven. These were people that also came from other, walks of religion, etc. We also, because this was in an extremely small town, had gawkers and onlookers that wanted to see, what a bunch of witches really do. Because, we don't call on Satan. We don't sacrifice babies. We don't sacrifice animals in my trad. And people are just curious. Okay? It was an outdoor, open ritual for midsummer. Now, one person in the circle, in other words, a magical practitioner, called in the goddess Lilith. Now, there are some people who do not realize that in some of the Gnostic texts of the Bible and references in I believe it's in the Talmud, refer to Adam's first wife. And if you reread the book of Genesis, you can kind of see where things don't actually kind of add up sequentially if you reread the first 5 books, okay, of the Bible, the Old Testament. Adam had a first wife before Eve, and her name was Lilith, and she refused to follow God's edicts and to follow what her husband, Adam, wanted her to do. She wanted to do her own thing. And for that, she was banned and cast from the Garden of Eden. And then God provided Adam with Eve. Now, Lilith became, in essence, the queen of the underworld, and she became the mother of demons. Let that sink in. The mother of demons and the mother of vampires. Okay? Let it sink in. Someone called Lilith into a circle with varying experience levels, people with that were complete novices, and he called in a goddess like her. Needless to say, those of us who were experienced were not happy about this, to say the least. It took everything that the rest of us practitioners, our head high priestess and our head high priest, to do to protect not only ourselves, but to protect everyone in that circle from this particular goddess that was called to join the ritual. It was very, very scary It was disconcerting. And this person was actually banned from our community for doing that. Now, why do you think that I told you this story? Because you're like, oh, well, I'm not a witch. That would never happen to me. You never know. As a ghost hunter, as a psychic, as a medium, as a clairvoyant, as a whatever you want to call yourself, a magical practitioner. You never know, number one, what somebody else is carrying with them. Number two, you don't know what you're going to walk into, especially as a paranormal investigator, whether it's just, residual energy all the way up to a demonic haunting. You do not know what you're setting your feet into when you first walk into a space until you, as a psychic, as a medium, as a magical practitioner, can learn to hone your skills to be able to pick up on what's there. The very first thing you need to do is to assume personal responsibility for protecting yourself through learning meditations, through connecting with your spirit guides. That does not happen overnight. And I don't mean just connecting, I mean developing a relationship with them. You cannot go on just willy-nilly and think that you will not get an attachment, that you will not be possessed. And you are a wide open channel when you do something like this. It is like driving 190 miles an hour down a snaking road through the Rocky Mountains. You're stupid if you do it. I'm sorry. It's not smart. It's not right. It is so irresponsible for someone to think that they can just walk in, read a book, watch a television show, and have the tools that they need. Because you're not only putting yourself at risk as a psychic medium, as a magical practitioner, you're endangering other people in your group, in your home, in wherever around you you are. If you are a wide open channel, you're dangerous. And it's not just to yourself. If you were just going to harm yourself, I'd say, you know what? This is a lesson learned, and you need to learn it. Number 3, ego. Leave your ego at the door. That gets a lot of people in trouble. There was a very famous fire chief of the Phoenix Fire Department. And that's a very progressive fire department in the United States. And Alan Brunacini was one of the most well-known and very loved fire chiefs in the United States. And he had several rules that he called the world according to Bruno. And one of those rules was, be careful who you choose as a hero, because egos eat brain cells. And it's very true. And that resonated with me so many years ago, is that if you look at folks around you who have gone in and made something of themselves, eventually they have a fall because their ego was such that, you know what, the universe gave them what I call a karmic bitch slap. If you walk into an investigation wide open, into a class with others who are like you, and also wide open, and you don't think that you need to assume some personal, I'm talking you, responsibility for learning how to control your talent, be humble about your talent, and to learn how to harness your talent, whether it's magical, psychic, whatever, in a meaningful and safe way, you're going to get a karmic bitch slap. And it's going to happen one of a couple of ways. You are either going to get an attachment, you will get possessed, or you're going to burn out. Because if you do not control the flow of what is coming to you as a psychic or a medium, as a witch, as a magical practitioner, as a person in life, if you do not control the flow of what is bombarding you, you're going to burn out. You're going to run into that nasty, nasty entity. You guys know what I say. If they were a butthead in life, they're going to be a butthead in spirit. Okay? You're going to run into an entity or a displaced soul that does not want to be dead, and they want to feel what it's like to be human again, or have a demon that wants to possess a human, and with the ultimate goal of having them, say, commit suicide, and just literally sucking the soul right out of them. You cannot rely on someone else or the divine to sit there and hold your hand the entire journey. You have got to learn how to protect yourself and control your environment, control the flow of what's going through you, whether it's you're developing magical powers, whether you're developing as a psychic. You have got to learn how to control the flow. And if that means that you have to shut down until you become more confident and competent to control the flow of what's coming around you, that's what you need to do. You need to shut down. And I'm going to say this because I have had in my journey too many people who have developed extreme sickness from letting their talents go unchecked. You can even, you can watch any of the paranormal shows on TV. And I can almost guarantee you that if someone on the show, a homeowner, is anyway sensitive, who has never, ever taken the time to develop that gift, to shield themselves, to protect themselves, they're probably the one that is the most sick in the house. Because you know what? If you have a level of ability, you are a bright white light that is extremely attractive to spirit. You need to know when to shut them down. You need to know your ego needs to be put in check and know when to shut down. That is one of the hardest things to admit, that you need to develop first before you go jumping in head first into uncharted waters. So, personal story here. I don't know if some of you caught the video I did on Ouija boards. But I said in one of the little captions that when it was during my witches training and we were doing divination and Ouija boards came up, that I refused to attend that class. There was a little note that went at the bottom that said, sorry, my pit bull's woofing over here. My neighbor's having a roof done after the windstorms we had a couple of weeks ago here. I did not attend that class because at that point in my life, because my gift was developing so quickly, and I was having personal trouble to shut down and control the flow and to stay grounded and to stay centered at all times. Even though at this point, I was probably a good year into my training as a witch. Even though that was the case, I did not attend that because I did not have control of my ability at that point. And not only did I not want to have something come through the board that could attach to me, more importantly, I did not want to put my classmates in jeopardy or to bring in something into my HP's shop that shouldn't be there, because I knew that I was having trouble staying grounded and having trouble shielding myself. It was not fair to my HP, and it was not fair to my classmates for me to be there because I was too much of a risk at that point. I hadn't learned at that time. I've got a few years in my life. At that point, I was like, I think around 40 years old when I started my training as a witch. And I had a little bit of life behind me. And sometimes that's one of the hardest things I have had to learn to put my ego in check. So I know that the times that you have heard me reference that I call in the archangels for protection, when we are going into a place that I know has very bad energy or an extremely malevolent entity in it, I do not assign protection on a routine basis to the archangels. I don't call in Archangel Michael unless I need him desperately. I do not place my personal responsibility for staying grounded, for staying centered, for staying protected on any divine source unless there is a significant threat. I don't lay that on anybody else. That's my responsibility. For routine investigations where we're going in, we kind of have an idea that it's just, a former homeowner that's pissed off or whatever. I don't call the archangels in for protection. Those are my big cannons when I need them. If I don't need a big cannon and I can get the job done by just whacking something over the head with a stick, that's what I'm going to do. It's sort of like crying wolf. If you cry wolf and have the archangels continuously fight your battle for you because you have not taken personal responsibility for honing your craft, for honing your gifts, for protecting yourself, for learning before you dive into this head first. Controlling the flow of what's going on. Again, you're ready for a karmic bitch slap. The divine will hit you upside the head. And I know that that's not a popular opinion with people. I know that if you have seen Marta, my medium friend from BYO Spirit, on any, of the Facebook group that we have, on Uber Goober Ladies Paranormal Friday night chat that she was on, you know that Marta has a golden aura behind her and around her and protecting her. That is through years of developing a personal relationship with her guides. She does not leave it all on the divine to protect her. She took the personal responsibility to develop that relationship with her spirit guides, with her guardians, with, she just recently connected with her own personal archangel not all that long ago. And she has been a psychic medium practitioner for more than 20 years. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. So the very first things that I ever learned before I did one stinking investigation at all was learning how to stay grounded and centered, and learning how to protect myself, and learning how to put my ego in check, and learning how to control the flow of information. Okay? Even with that, and I have talismans on me, I have protections and wards in my home that I do all the time. I routinely smudge my house, and I'm a Reiki master. That took a long time. That took, more than 6 months to develop, to go through the 3 levels to become a Reiki master, to be able to control the flow of energy, to be able to, tap into that where you're very sensitive to the various energies around you. And then to be able to take those energies and clear them if they're negative. Not only from like another human body, but you can take that knowledge and apply it into protections and everything of your home and your person. So I had at least, I want to say 2 to 3 years of developing my gifts before I ever conducted my first or attended my first paranormal investigation. Before I ever did formal tarot readings for someone else, because that is my preferred way of receiving messages as a psychic medium. I had been a practitioner for over 2 years. So I hope that you don't get offended by my opinions, but I'm over 50. I'm in the crone phase of my life, and my opinions are mine. This will not resonate with some people, but just remember, you are a loose cannon in a paranormal investigation, in being a psychic medium. You're not only endangering yourself, you're endangering your client. when you can't control the flow of information. So, my number one thing, and you can even read books and things, the very first chapters deal with protecting yourself when you're on an investigation. It's Ghost Hunter 101. It's Medium 101. It's Clairvoyant 101. It's Empath 101. You have got to learn to protect yourself and to be humble. And those are two of the hardest lessons. And even though I know what I'm doing, I have brought entities home with me and had them attached to me. We have my buddy Alex, who has been doing this longer than I have, has had spirit attached to him and follow him home. We both, if you watch the episode on Ouija boards, and I will annotate that at the end and put it in the description box, a link to it in the description box. The last part of that, I talked about a case that someone who had used a Ouija board that didn't know what they were doing, they just picked one up and started thinking that they could speak with spirit, and then they let stuff through because they didn't close the board down properly. They didn't know what they were doing. And then they ended up with two entities in their house, and one of them was a demon. And after that case, we ended up, because of some actions that the homeowner took, the investigators that were there to clear the house that night were tormented, literally, in our dreams. And that's when I call in Michael the Archangel to defend me in battle. I don't do it on a daily. That's my responsibility. So, to learn how to protect yourself, learn how to stay grounded and centered, and learn to put your ego in check. Because no one is immune to having spirits attach. It may take them longer to do it. No one is safe from what I call malignant magic being thrown your way. No one is safe from what I call psychic vampires that want to just tap in and drain your power and attach to you and attach to your aura and literally like start sucking you dry. No one's immune to that. But you can certainly put up enough barriers and certainly surround yourself and take responsibility for yourself and protect your home, to ward yourself at all times, so that it makes things a lot harder. And then you call in the big guns when you need them. Okay? So, the next in the series will not be as heavy as this one is. But I wanted to make this video because I see an extremely disturbing trend of novices or people who are just embracing their gifts, jumping headfirst into doing investigations, and then developing attachments, either, through spirit attaching, through another malevolent entity attaching, or through somebody who is kind of nefarious in their deeds, like a psychic vampire, tapping into you because you're an open channel. So, if I, as a very experienced witch, and very experienced paranormal investigator, I always, always take responsibility for my gifts. And if I have trouble shoring up my protections around me and around my home due to illness, several years ago, I broke my leg, and I broke my tib fib. I've got a rod in my leg. But during that time, there was a week before they could do the surgery on my leg to put it back together. So literally my leg was in 4 pieces, the bones, for a week. You want to talk pain? That was painful. And I was on a lot of Percocet. And God loved my friend Marta and my friend Alex because they boosted me when I couldn't protect myself that well because of the medication that I was on. I was lowered, my abilities to protect myself were lowered, and they helped me, and they helped me through. But I also had to humble myself to ask for help. So, with that said, I do hope that anyone who is planning on attending a paranormal investigation, trying to develop their abilities, trying to learn more, that you first learn how to ground and center, how to protect yourself, and how to keep your ego in check. And learn that you might have to shut down until you're able to control your gift. Because until then, you're not only endangering yourself, you're endangering other people, and you're endangering those that you're reading for. Okay? With that said, boy, this was a heavy little bit of a rant, wasn't it? Gee. I apologize for that, but I had to get this off my chest. It's something that has been bothering me for a long time. It is a very, very growing concern in the community. And I cannot tell you how many times that I have handed out black tourmaline and prayer cards. And even one lady who was in one of our groups who attended the investigations with us, but she was autistic, and she couldn't protect herself well because she was, you know, fairly well autistic. So we protected her so that she could go with us. And I gave her a protection talisman. And it was so lovely because she just lit up like a tree, you know, a Christmas tree, when I gave it to her. And she always had it with her. So even if you not only need to learn how to protect yourself, you've got to learn how to protect others around you when you start doing readings, when you start tapping into spirit, either through developing as a psychic, going on a ghost hunt, attending one of those, you know, tours that you pay to go on. You are doing yourself and others a disservice if you don't learn those 3 things. Ground and center, protect yourself, put your protections up, and check your ego. Okay? I promise that the next video won't be a rant. It's going to be a little bit lighter of a subject and get back into producing content. It's been a rough few weeks on YouTube. It's been kind of nasty in the community, and I didn't really want to post any videos in that kind of environment because it was too much. Okay? So with that, you guys know what I always say, Until the next video and until we see each other again, be well and walk in the light, everyone.